So you made the decision. You want to be a fish keeper. It's time to start collecting all of the equipment necessary to start successfully with this hobby. That's what we're talking about today on this episode of Tank Talk. Hey folks, it's John with KGTropicals.com. It's Sunday, September 14th, 2014. Welcome to this edition of Tank Talk. Today we are going to pick up right where we left off last week in our video series, Fish Keeping 101. We're trying to get you started in this hobby as easily and pain-free as possible. And last week we talked about decisions that need to be made before you dive right into this hobby. And this week we're going to pick up where we left off, and we're going to talk about getting your system set up, gathering the equipment necessary to enter into this hobby successfully. Before we do that, I do need to explain a little bit. If you didn't catch my video, I put up a quick video last week. I was talking about the computer issues that I've been having for the last couple of weeks. We finally got that resolved, and starting right now, we will be right back onto a strict schedule with the video uploads and the podcast. So thank you for hanging in there with me. It's time to get back to work. Now, just like every week, if you'd like to get a little bit more detailed information about what we're talking about in this episode, I'll encourage you to head over to KGTropicals.com, go to the podcast episodes page, and check out our podcast. We'll be covering the same topic on there every week we do this. And this week, believe me, folks, you're going to want to check out this episode because we are going to have a guest on the show that is the perfect person to talk to when it comes to gathering equipment and getting your setup done. And that is the king of DIY himself. Joey Mullen is going to be on the podcast with me. It'll upload on Tuesday. It's bound to be a lot of fun. If you've watched any of his videos, if you haven't, I don't know what's wrong with you. If you don't know who Joey is, he is the man when it comes to setting up systems, doing things yourself, saving money. We're sure to get a ton of great information from you. If you've watched his videos, you already know that. So be on the lookout for that. Tuesday morning, it will upload at KGTropicals.com. It's also available on iTunes and Stitcher and everywhere else. So be on the lookout for that. So I want to go through just a really quick list of what it is that we're going to cover today, and then we'll get into each thing in a little bit more detail. Just the generic stuff that you're going to need to set up your tank for the first time. So first thing, shocker, right? The tank. We're going to need to get you a tank. We're going to talk about a couple of options that you have when it comes to that. You're going to want to have your tank sitting on something, so we're going to want to have a stand. Again, we'll talk about a few options there. Lids, filtration, heat, light, and air. Those are the things that we're going to want to set you up with right off the bat to get you set up more smoothly and easily without a whole lot of complications. I'm not going to go into things like decorations and substrates and things like that today. We're just talking about equipment. So let's get into the first thing. Let's talk about your options when it comes to a tank. All right, so there's a couple of options when it comes to your tank, but let's just keep it simple. And for the sake of this conversation, let's talk about the two main options that you have, glass and acrylic. For the newbie, somebody just coming into this hobby, I would definitely recommend glass. It's much more readily available. You can drive down to your closest pet store, and they're going to have one there for you. I would definitely say glass is going to be the way to go. And most of your smaller consumer-grade aquariums are going to be glass aquariums anyway, so it's not that difficult. Acrylic there's definitely benefits to acrylic. I've never had one, but things like being able to fix scratches and stuff like that on acrylic, you definitely have your benefits. But again, starting simple, let's go ahead and talk about glass aquariums. I don't know the numbers, but probably 90% of the aquariums out there are glass. So let's just stick with that. When it comes to buying your tank, you do have a couple of different options. Brand new, that's what I prefer, but we can't always afford that. You can buy used, you can buy custom. I'm not going to waste any time talking about custom right now, because if you're brand new to this hobby, you're probably not wanting to spend a fortune on a custom tank. So used or new. Used, buy them off of Craigslist, buy them off of garage sales, whatever it is. Maybe your friend has one sitting in his basement. Who knows? Don't be afraid of buying a used aquarium. Put some water in it, make sure it doesn't leak before you put it in your living room, and you should be fine. If it does leak, it's very simple to repair. I'll refer you right over to Joey Mullen, who's going to be with us on the podcast. He's got videos all about resealing glass aquariums. Very simple to do. You don't have to be handy. So don't be afraid to buy a used aquarium. But if you can afford brand new, by all means, do it. And there's a lot of starter kits out there that kind of make this whole process a little more simple because they come with everything that you need. But maybe we'll get into a little bit more depth in those with the podcast rather than wasting a whole lot of time here. But if you want to get one of those startup kits, they are great. I've bought them before. They come with everything you need except for a stand. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to keep this really simple, you don't feel like shopping around, look for one of those starter kits. And they've got some pretty high-end ones out there too. So definitely check those out. But now stands are another one that you do have a few options, but let's keep it simple. You can buy one at the store when you buy your aquarium. Or if your friend is selling you the tank, most likely he's got a stand with it too. Stands come in all different shapes and sizes. You can build your own with some cinder blocks and a couple of 2x4s. Again, Joey has a video all about that. There's a ton of different things that you can do to set up a stand. But again, for the sake of keeping this easy, why don't you just buy one when you go and buy your tank at the store? If you're buying brand new, wherever it sells tanks, they're going to sell stands too. Pick one up while you're there. They're engineered specifically to hold the weight of your aquarium. Keep it easy, keep it simple, and just get one while you're there. Back in the day, aquarium stands used to be very ugly, just black boxes or brown boxes. But now, like this one back here, you can see they're coming out with some really nice, almost custom looking aquarium stands that you can buy right at the store when you buy your tank. So, but then again, do some research. If you can't afford a new stand, you can build one very inexpensively, and you really don't need to be Bob Vila to be able to build an aquarium stand. So you've got a couple of options, but again, keep it simple. If you're at the store buying a tank, buy your stand right there with it. Now, the next thing that you're going to need is a filter. And this is something that we could actually do an entire episode on. And I think when Joey and I talk on Tuesday, we're probably going to focus most of our attention on filtration because you have so many different options. You've got hang on the back filters. You've got canister filters. You've got sumps that are factory made, or you can make your own sump. Joey has a video about that too. There's all different types of filtration out there. They all have their pros. They all have their cons. And it's going to be up to you once you get a little bit more experienced in this hobby to figure out what it is that you like better. Now, for the beginner, again, I'm all about simplicity. Whatever's going to be easiest, that's what I would go with. And if you're going with anything 55 gallons or smaller, I would just recommend a hang on the back filter. It's a plastic box that will hang on the back of your tank, and it will process the water very efficiently, put it right back into the tank, making it safe for the fish and keeping the water clean for the fish to keep the presentation of the tank a little bit better. Again, for the beginner, hang on the back filters are definitely going to be the easiest. If you have a little bit more money and you want to go the canister filter route, they are extremely efficient, very quiet, and they work extremely well, but they are a little bit more expensive than the hang on the back filters. If you're going to buy one of those starter kits that we talked about earlier, it's most likely going to come with a hang on the back filter. So back in the day, that's really all we had. So if, hang on the back filters, I like them. I've got about 50 of them in the shop. So they work extremely well. They've been around forever. Don't worry. You don't have to worry about them. I mean, they're easy to use. So, but you do have some options. And again, if you want a little bit more information about that, check out the podcast that'll upload on Tuesday. Okay, if you're keeping goldfish, if that's what you've decided that you want to keep, you maybe don't need to pay attention to this next section. But if you're keeping anything tropical, you're going to need a heater for your tank. And that's the next thing on the list. Now, there's a ton of different options out there for heat, just like filtration. There's inline heaters. If you have canister filters, we don't need to get all complicated here, folks. The easiest thing to do is to buy one of these submersible heaters. If you buy a starter pack, that's what's going to come with it. It's a heater that actually you put inside the tank with your fish. It's usually a glass tube or a plastic tube, and it's going to heat the water, making it safe for your tropical fish. Now, when it comes to what size you need, it's 5 watts per gallon. Very simple. If you're going to start out with a 20-gallon community fish tank, you're going to need a 100-watt heater. Simple. Whatever the gallons is in your tank, multiply that by 5, and that's the size heater you need. If you're getting a huge tank to start out with, you might need to buy a couple of heaters. Not a big deal, but just remember that 5 watts per gallon. And when you go to pick out your heater, usually it'll say right there on the box from gallons, however many to however many. So heaters are very simple. They are critical if you're keeping tropical fish. Don't let that be something that you skip. There's other things that you can skip. Don't skip your heater. You definitely need it. Okay, so the next thing is lighting. This is another one. I could do a whole episode talking about nothing but lighting. Everybody has their opinions on them. I own every single different type of aquarium light you can get, and they all work. They all work very well. It's all dependent on what you want to achieve with the tank, because some of them are definitely brighter than others, and some of them actually inject color into the water that gives it a completely different look. But lighting, if you're going to go cheap, there are plenty of different T12, T5 fixtures out there. These are fluorescent fixtures. They're not that expensive, but you can start going much more high end and get into things like LEDs that have all different kinds of features and options and stuff like that on them. And special bulbs that actually put color into the water. All different kinds of stuff. You have a ton of options, but lighting really is pretty simple. You need light in the tank if you want your tank to look good. It doesn't matter to the fish. I mean, if you had the fish in a closet and there was never any light, then it would probably bother them. But if your tank is in a living room, they don't need it. The fish don't care because they're going to get ambient lighting. It doesn't bother them. But if you want the tank to look really nice, you're going to need to get a light. And I would say save the light for the last thing on your list. That way, whatever you have left in your budget, you can throw that into a really good light, because lighting does make a huge difference. And again, like I said, we could spend an entire episode talking about nothing but lighting. I have every single different type, and I don't really know which one is my favorite. But spend some money, get a nice light. It'll definitely make a difference on how your aquarium looks. Okay, so the next two things that we're going to talk about are kind of optional. You don't necessarily have to have them, but they're definitely good to have, and I would recommend that if you have it in the budget, to go ahead and pick these two things up. The first thing is an air pump. It's not just for decoration, folks. Air pumps providing air into the tank is going to make a huge difference on the health of your aquarium. Now, don't get it twisted. Aquarium pumps are not oxygen tanks. We did a video a long time ago talking about how air pumps do not put oxygen into the tank, and we got all kinds of people mad at us. They're not oxygen pumps, folks. But what they do is they put air into the tank, which helps with the gas exchange. It helps keep the current moving. It helps to oxygenate the tank, but it does not put oxygen into the tank. I don't know if that makes sense. If these little air pumps were oxygen tanks, I mean, people with emphysema would be walking around with aquarium pumps strapped to their belt. I mean, come on. They're not oxygen tanks, but they are not required, but I would get one if I were you. If your filtration that you have is strong enough to where it's really moving the water and creating a really nice current in the tank, then it's not essential. But go ahead and get one. They're really cheap. Get you a cute little air stone. You can get little dragons and little skeletons and stuff to hook up to it and makes bubbles, and it can definitely help with the decoration of the tank, create some movement, but it'll also help with the health of your tank. So put an air pump in your budget. Next thing, lids. I know it might sound like common sense. There's a lot of people that don't get lids. Lids, if you're getting the glass ones that like fold in half, they can be kind of expensive if you're on a tight budget. There are a lot of options when it comes to lids. Some of your smaller aquariums have plastic lids with a little opening that's glass or plexiglass to put your light on. Some of those come with the starter kits. Those are inexpensive and they work very well. Then you have your glass ones. And then there's also a couple of different options for DIY, lids. Again, refer to Joey. Go over to his channel. He's got videos on every single thing we're talking about here. But lids do help out a lot because they're going to help to keep humidity down in the room. If you have a lot of tanks, your room's going to get humid. It'll definitely help with that. It'll help to keep your water from evaporating so fast. And it'll also keep your fish in the tank. So that's a good thing too, right? I have probably 80% of the tanks in my shop have no lids on them. And we keep the water about that far below the top of the tank to keep fish from jumping out. But they still do it. They jump from tank to tank. They go on little vacations. It's kind of crazy. I wish we could afford to get lids on every single tank in there. But lids are something that, again, if you're buying a starter kit, it will come with its own lid. I almost guarantee it. And there's not really one lid that's better than the other. I mean, yes, if you're keeping Oscars, if you're keeping arowanas, the heavier the lid, the better. So you don't want one of those flimsy plastic lids because they are jumpers and they'll jump right through that lid. But again, for the sake of the beginner, we're going to keep it simple. Get anything on the top of that tank to keep it closed off so you don't have a bunch of fish laying all over the floor. Okay, so there you have it. There is the list of things that you're going to need to put together your system to get started in the fish keeping hobby. It doesn't need to be complicated, folks. If you want to keep it as simple as possible, head over to your big box store or your local pet store and buy one of those starter kits. They have them in all different sizes and they have everything in them that you need to get started. All you're going to need to add would be, I don't think they usually come with air pumps. So if you want one of those, you're going to need to pick one of those up and a stand and then all of your decor to go inside of the tank. That is everything you need. It's very simple and you don't have to shop around and bargain price and all of that kind of stuff. Everything you need right there in one box. And they have them up to 55 gallons. So it's very simple, very easy. I've bought them before in emergency situations and they're very, very nice. They even have them where they have kind of high-end equipment that comes with it. So definitely check those out if you want to keep this as simple as possible. Now, in next week's episode, we're going to get into the cycling process because now that you have all of your equipment and you've set it all up and you filled your tank full of water and got it running, now you need to know what happens next. It's not throw a bunch of fish in there. It's going to be the cycling of the aquarium, bringing the aquarium to life. We're going to talk about that all in next week's episode. Keep it as simple as possible. That's what I like to do. So you can look forward to that. That is going to be episode 3 of our Fish Keeping 101 series. So thank you so much for watching this. While you're sitting there on the computer, if you don't mind, maybe help me out here a little bit. Head over to KGTropicals.com. Check out what we have to offer. We can ship you fish directly to your door. Once you've watched this series and your tank is fully ready for fish, order them from us. We'll send them right out to you. Also, while you're setting up your tank, head over to universalrocks.com. I'll put the little website up here. Go over there. You might want to buy one of these backgrounds that they have or some of these decorative rocks that they have and put them in your brand new tank that you're setting up. And if you enter Tank Talk at checkout, you get a 15% discount when you buy these products. So, hey, do it. And then if you're someone who is into planted tanks, if you want to get started with one of those, head over to dustinsfishtanks.com. He's offering 25% to my viewers for entering Tank Talk in the promo box at checkout. So dustinsfishtanks.com has all the plants that you'll need. Universal Rocks has your decor. KG Tropicals has your fish. We got you covered, folks. So head over there. Please support our sponsors. I'd really appreciate it. I want to thank you so much for watching this episode, and I'll see you next week.